Kind of just all right,
Oh man, oh man, oh man.
man, dude.
Man, NBA trade deadline, man. Goodness. You know what?
Listen,
Let's say what up to the people. What up, though, people? It is your boy Brandon Dent, aka Detroit Kool-Aid, and I'm rocking out with Mr. Everything, Jeff
what it
Frankie
do?
here. Woodward Pistons in the building, Woodward Sports. We're here to talk about this NBA trade deadline. Listen, the engagements, the comments, the replies. People are not happy. There. It's. I thought it was a mixed bag, but
I can see why.
you have some people who are like, you know what? I'm gonna trust Troy. Then you got everybody else who's like, what the heck is going on? So Jeff, I'm gonna ask you first. What the heck is going on?
I don't know. And I'm not, and I don't want to sit up here and completely trash the trade. I think Troy has shown in the past where you might make a move and it might not be complete. You know, like the Jeremy Grant trade, you get a future first round pick. You're a little skeptical, but then you turn that into Duran. So I'm not going to say, Troy doesn't know what the heck he's doing. I think that's probably a little too overboard. But if we're talking value versus value, this clearly told us that Saddiq Bey does not have as much value as we expect him to have. But if you look at Saddiq Bey over the last 3 years, he's a 15-point per game at the worst guy, like around that number. He's not the most efficient, but believe it or not, statistically, and I think this was Sean Corp who tweeted this out, he's a better defender than James Wiseman, according to all the analytics or statistics he was using. So Wiseman isn't really known as a great defender. He's shown he's injury prone. That's a big one. And there's other things a part of Wiseman where he hasn't really quite lived up to his potential. And this sounds familiar. I feel like Troy Weaver's kind of done this the last, couple of years as the GM. If you've taken chances on guys like Marvin Bagley, or you sign Kevin Knox, now he's traded. But of course, you take guys that you think can have some upside. I get that.
Yeah.
But eventually, you're going to have to just solidify your roster. And maybe that happens this offseason. We were talking about it before the show. Maybe Marvin Bagley's on the move. There's no way off your bench you're 4 and 5 or Bagley and Wiseman. There's no way.
No,
there's no way.
No,
the spacing is horrendous with those two. So there is absolutely no way. So it's tough because I don't want to sit here and crap on the trade. But if we're talking value per value, I think Saddiq's a better player and probably has a little more value than Wiseman right now. Even if you believe in the potential of Wiseman, which I give it to you. I think he had a 30-point game this year, if I'm not mistaken, for the Warriors. So he's shown some flashes, but he'll never grow into what you think he can be because you have Duran. He's never going to get those opportunities here. And that's my problem. Like, I could see if you didn't have Duran. If we didn't have Duran, I'd be ecstatic right now because I'd be like, okay, we're getting a player that maybe can grow into your starting center. We have a starting center. It's Jalen Duran. Yeah, I mean, watch his last 15 games for me. I mean, that's what's frustrating. So I don't know, man. I don't know what to make of it. I know this is an incomplete trade. I mean, you wait till the offseason, maybe some more moves are made and the roster. This is not a complete roster. Clearly, there's a lot of work to do. But if we're just simply, and this isn't me overvaluing Saddiq, I think that gets lost too. Well, you guys are just overvaluing Saddiq. Not really. No one's saying Saddiq is on a pedestal. But if we're talking player versus player, am I crazy to say Saddiq Bey for James Wiseman 1-for-1 doesn't really make sense to me?
It doesn't make sense. The sense that you could make of it, like just on a scale 1 to 1, I'm just like, I don't know. And it caused us to say, okay, let's get together, let's figure out, based on what we've seen from Troy Weaver, based on where we started the season, based on the questions that we had, what check boxes is this hitting? And we said at the beginning of the season when Troy Weaver pushed the button on the the contracts of Saddiq Bey, Killian Hayes, and Isaiah Stewart, picking up their options and pushing the button on Cade Cunningham as well. That was just kind of formality. We said that this meant this was the season that decisions were going to be made on those players.
Mm-hmm.
We stated this was going to be a huge year for Killian Hayes to prove that he can at least be a backup point guard. When they got Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks, that made all 3 of those guys, including Saddiq Bey, very, very expendable. Right. So if you're not going to pay Saddiq Bey what he may command, then you have to trade him. So trading Saddiq Bey is not necessarily the issue.
No. It's not Saddiq. It's not
The
trading
return,
Saddiq.
though, is something that we start to say, hey, if you're going to trade him, why would you do it this way? Now, Troy did say if he was going to trade one of his young guys, he said he would want what? Effectively a young player or a couple draft picks so that he could take his shot at it if it was going to be at the trade deadline. I guess James Wiseman fits that bill. Drafted in the same draft, drafted in 2020, number 2 overall pick. Obviously the potential of the ceiling is supposed to be higher there. I've seen flashes, but I haven't seen consistency. And the injuries, they just kind of make it seem a little bit redundant to Marvin Bagley already. But furthermore, when I just kind of look into it, does this mean that Marvin Bagley is more expendable? Now, I know they've been trying to play their 2 and 3 big lineups for a long time, 2 bigs at one time, 1 big off the bench to spell the other. And they haven't been able to do that. People have said, hey, why aren't we playing our double beef lineup? Why aren't we playing our junkyard dogs? Why aren't we doing this anymore? Well, it's because they only got 2 bigs. And if one of those guys gets into foul trouble, or if one of those guys get into trouble playing together, you don't have anyone off the bench. Supposedly, based on what I saw Rod Beard tweet out of the Detroit News and of what we're Pistons podcast, maybe Wiseman is supposed to be somebody that is to bolster the big man off the bench.
And the one thing I can say too, before I get to James Wiseman and the injury concerns, because that's a real thing. Like, we know Saddiq is Iron Man, dude. He does not miss many games. He's there. He's available. Whether or not he's consistent, which you're right, he isn't consistent. James Wiseman missed all last season because of a knee injury. He's had ankle issues, or is it shoulder? One of the two. He's been banged up at times. So Wiseman, there is a legit concern. But what I will say is, if Wiseman shows flashes, I do agree. I think potential-wise, maybe you can get more for Wiseman for a team that needs a center. Maybe you can get more than what you would have gotten for Saddiq. But that's not a for sure thing. You're trading a player, you know what he is, for a player you don't really know what he can be. You have an idea and you like to believe it, but the grass isn't always greener on the other side. So I'm curious, this is a trade that I'm going to have to wait till the offseason, wait to see what Troy does through the offseason to really look at. This is more of a big picture. I got to look out. I got to take time. Right now, I think people get reactive, and rightfully so. It doesn't make sense, but you got to give it some time, because Troy, there's still more moves to be done. There is, and we know that.
Yep. And like I said, for whatever made James Wiseman the number 2 overall pick, obviously this is something that's going to factor into why this trade happened. Now, I know that Saddiq Bey is going to command a little bit more money. If you're going to sign James Wiseman, he's not going to command as much money to retain as Saddiq Bey.
That's a thing too. I'm not paying Saddiq. So we agree there. You're not giving him 4 for 80, whatever it would have been. So if you want to make that argument, that's fine. That's why I wanted to trade him. I just didn't expect this type of return. I didn't expect a first-round pick and a guy like James Wiseman, but man, any type of draft assets on top of it.
Hey, shout out MK, man. He said Troy was sick of that green spot in Saddiq's hair.
The Joker.
Yeah, the Joker, man. Look, the writing was on the wall. We kind of said that there was going to be 2 trades this year. The first one was the Boyan one. This one was the second one. Rod told us somebody from the core is going to get moved. And I thought that Saddiq Bey was going to be probably the most likely. I didn't think that Killian Hayes was going to move the needle with other teams, but we got to think about it. I don't, my goodness. You want to be able to say, hey, other teams wanted our young players, but you also want to be able to state, hey, we were compensated for that. So like you stated, with Troy Weaver, we know that there's always smoke first and then there's fire. We can't look at this and say this is just the fire. Last year, they had some flirtations with the New York Knicks, right? They didn't culminate a deal. But by the offseason, what did they do? When they actually did the deal to get Jalen Duren, that deal went so quickly because of the previous conversations they had been having, starting at just prior to the trade deadline.
Right.
So who knows if the talks that they were having with the Lakers, the talks that they were having with the Knicks, the talks that they were having with the Bucks, because it's saying it's been reported that the Pistons actually I think by James Edwards III, that the Pistons like the assets of the Bucks a little bit better. Maybe they're going to wait until the offseason to see what they can do, and really, really, really then turn this thing up. And this is another thing I wanted to ask. I want to ask the commenters too, man. Do you believe this? Do you believe that there was an offer on the table at all for a first round pick? Or do you believe Saddiq Bey was worth that? Let me not say that because we don't know if there was an offer. But do you believe he was worth that? And then
I don't.
two, do you believe that James Wiseman can fetch any first round pick if Troy decided to flip him this offseason or next season?
It's tough, man. I would say no to both of those because what role would Wiseman be in to where he would command or he would get a first round pick in return? I don't see it because you have Duran. He's starting until for the unforeseeable future. So Wiseman's never going to get that opportunity unless he's hurt. So I don't. For Saddiq to get a first round pick, yeah, maybe not, probably not. I don't think teams. This kind of told us what they did today. Tells us they probably wasn't a first round pick on the table. But if you're going to convince me that Wiseman can get a first round pick, yeah, okay.
Debo,
no, I don't think so.
Yeah, Debo says something I was talking about too. You know, the Pistons have been punked this year by teams that have multiple actual big men. I'm talking about like bruisers. You know, the Boston Celtics have come in and punked us. The Cleveland Cavaliers have come in and punked us. Teams have gone in, and I remember I was at one game. Oh my gosh, and it sucks when you got to be there. Shout out to the Pistons in our media room. The food, they take care of us. But when you got to be there after seeing the Pistons lose a paint battle 82-50 and give up 82 paint points, that's crucial. And our guys cannot defend the paint at all. Now, I don't know what James Wiseman brings in that department.
And I was just going to get there because people want to come at Saddiq Bey for what he is defensively. Again, per Sean Corp, he tweeted this out. Saddiq Bey is a better defender, believe it or not, than James Wiseman. Now, the potential of James Wiseman, sure, you could sell me on that. He could be a better defender. He isn't. I haven't seen it. So we're working off what we know. And we know James Wiseman right now isn't a great defender. So I don't know where that comes from too. So we have to wait and see. I'm not gonna, write James Wiseman off. It is confusing to say the least. It really is, but we'll see. Again, this roster is a lot of things that need to be maneuvered again and moved. Like you said, Bagley, we don't know his future. Bojan was flirted at the deadline. The Lakers were interested. I don't know if he'll be moved, even though we don't believe he will. You don't know. So a lot of things in the future aren't guaranteed. There's going to be a lot of moves. So to sit here and react to this trade like it's the end all be all is a little premature. I think this isn't the roster you're going into next year with. There's going to be more changes. So I see some comments too.
Yeah, what do you see, man?
Aaron says that is not a fair stat. Jeff Wiseman hardly plays at all. He has not had a great sample size. Sure, that it isn't great now, but what we've seen, Bey plays consistently and Wiseman does not. Well, if you're talking about being available, yes, Saddiq has been available consistently.
He's been Iron Man for the Pistons.
He has. He's never injured. And you're trading for a guy who historically has had injuries. So we'll see. It's kind of similar. It's very similar to Marvin Bagley.
Yeah.
Except Bagley got a little more time, but still he was coming off the bench during the end of his tenure with the Kings. So we'll see.
Yeah, it just feels like the Marvin Bagley situation.
And another one, Apollo, if Wiseman can't play D, why is he the number 1 overall pick? Well, he was the second overall pick. And right now, it was because of what he could be at the time. The Warriors just traded him. So clearly they don't believe in him. So if that tells you anything, I mean, if you want to go off pre-draft, of course. Marvin Bagley, before the draft, by the way, if you guys watched him, incredible player. He's a decent player, but coming out of college, I mean, you don't really know. James Wiseman, you didn't really see him get it collegiately. So you just kind of took a chance on his upside, and it never really panned out. So it's tough.
Yeah, it's tough. I see the comments, man. People are all over the place, man. It's a lot of he stinks. This trade stinks. He can't play defense. Hey, shout out Sean Murphy. I see him in the comments as well. He was bringing up the fact that players couldn't be scouted in person that year.
Yeah, that was the COVID. Well. Yeah, that was the year of all that stuff. I mean, and this is the thing that I think gets frustrating is you see where guys are drafted and you still hold on to that. You have to look at what they are right now. Like Killian Hayes was drafted 7th overall, but I don't even care about where players are. Can you be productive and where do you fit on this roster? And for Wiseman, I don't. Yeah. I mean, as your backup center, like I don't mind it. But I would prefer if I had an ideal backup center behind Duran, it'd be someone who could shoot. You need more shooting. Obviously, you need to get better defensively. Of course, we know that. But to have someone that could come in behind Duran and they can space the floor and be solid defensively is my ideal backup for Jalen Duran, not another worse Jalen Duran. I don't know, but we'll see.
and the guy said this trade is trash if we end up getting Wemby. Like, so he's not accepting this trade at all. At all. Like even if this trade definitely secures that the Pistons are gonna get Wemby or Scoot. Yeah, I want to ask y'all, like, if this just secures that the Pistons about the nosedive to any degree, man, what's up? What's up? Are you cool with Wemby or Scoot out of this? Is there any consolation? It's gonna be tough though, man. Like going into this offseason, we've talked about it a lot, but it's gonna be tough to see how trading Saddiq now at this juncture is going to bring in more than maybe trading him in the offseason. Like we stated, hey, but maybe this lends to what you were stating. Maybe there wasn't a first round pick on the table for Saddiq Bey.
Yeah, I think that's what gets twisted too. It's
Like,
I don't believe
overvalued
Troy.
him?
Yeah, yes,
Or
yes.
has anyone has people who believed, hey, first round pick should have been out there or a better deal should be out there? Were we or did you overvalue Saddiq Bey?
There's two parts. Like part of that is yes, I think people and maybe even us to a certain extent we're overvaluing him, but to put him in on an equal ground as James Wiseman, I don't agree with. I don't think I'm there yet. But to say we're overvaluing him for a first round pick, I can live with that because I don't believe there was a first round pick available. If Troy looked at multiple deals and said, "Oh, I'm gonna go with Wiseman," I would really want to know that. I would, but we don't know that. So
people saying to combat Mobley and Allen. You think Duran and Wiseman can become a Mobley and Allen light?
come on, man. Come on, bro. I'm not in the mood today. Mobley
I tried.
and Allen. Are you?
I tried, dog. I tried, man. We're trying to look.
Dude, Evan Mobley is like running pick and rolls. Like he's the ball handler and like the guy. He's don't know.
Bro, Evan Mobley is that guy who is like, all right, I'm looking at him and all night I'm like, hey, he's really doing a lot for his team, like setting picks, ball handling, roller, passing it. Then I look up and he has 16 and 10 out of nowhere. I'm just like, what happened? You know what I mean? It was like, why? I don't listen. That threw me off, bro. Duran and Wiseman. That's not gonna be Mobley and Allen.
Oh no, it's gonna be DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis. That's what it's gonna be. Congratulations. I mean, come on, man.
Hey, I like you.
And I love
for Jalen Duran.
I love.
I like that AD for Jalen Duran. That's dope. It can't be Boogie. Right?
No.
Jeez.
I love it. People in the chat are all like, Jeff, tell us how you really feel. Okay. Well, I'm actually, I'm at a meter and I don't want to go overboard because I'm going to say some things. So, right now I'm trying to be cool, calm, and collected. I'm trying to be cool for the people. I don't want to get overreactive and start spewing out stuff that, I may regret later. So,
yeah, like
I said, I'm going to wait, see how this thing plays out, and look at the big picture. I don't want to react to just this move.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of these comments, man. Mike said Wiseman equals practice punching bag for beef stew. Like, I'm just like, Apollo, let it out, Jeff.
Dog.
Aaron S. said Evan Mobley is averaging 15.4 points per game and 19% from three. He ain't
and Do It Effortless says, what's the big picture, Jeff? I need to see how this plays out over the summer because right now you can be frustrated. But when moves are made, let's say Bagley's traded, like this roster, like right now, the big thing I have a problem with is Bagley and Wiseman off your bench as your 4 and 5.
They're redundant players.
Right. Bagley, in today's NBA, you can't play him at the 4. He's not good defensively. You can't play him at the 5. He's not a great shooter. Like, so you're going to pair him next to James Wiseman, who isn't proven to be good defensively and can't shoot. Like,
it doesn't work. And that's why I stated that I believe this actually makes Marvin Bagley expendable. I wanted to see a secondary deal go down that was like, hey, the Pistons traded Marvin Bagley for 2 second-round picks at the very least. Just so at least we can say, you know what?
Right.
He didn't want to pay Saddiq Bey. Marvin Bagley is what, $37 million 3-year contract. Get him out of here so that now we can go into this offseason with a little bit more capital or cap space. So like I stated, or like Rod stated, there's got to be more on the way. And so it's like just on a one-to-one deal, you hope that James Wiseman is whatever Troy Weaver thinks he is. And if this is about something bigger this offseason, like think about this, man. When Jeremy Grant was traded, how low valued was that 25th draft pick? Come on. No, come on. Hey, get the camera pushed back, man, or something.
Bro, no, Bray, you can sit here. You can sit here. I got my thoughts out. I'm gonna let Bray take it over.
Bro,
let's go,
bro. Get in here, man.
Kool-Aid, what's up, my guy?
Bro, I'm glad you're here. Glad you're here. Listen, we got 134 people in here.
Okay, shout out to the people. Appreciate you supporting. We're Pistons in here. Kool-Aid, Jeff Alfredi.
Listen, they're not happy.
Why is Saddiq Bey?
Yeah, I need your take on it, man. I need your take on it. The people are a little bit upset. They're starting to doubt Troy Weaver.
Right.
They're not getting it, man.
So, in terms of the people doubting Troy Weaver, I understand, maybe not full doubt, but I understand a little bit of doubt trying to see, because he's made some moves, and a lot of them haven't necessarily panned out the way you want them. You can talk about Killian Hayes. You can talk about Saddiq Bey's inconsistency. There's been moves and players that haven't necessarily panned out. As far as this move, look, man, Saddiq Bey's, it's too inconsistent here. Like, I think for this to be, what up? What's up, Sean Murphy?
Hey,
what's going on, my guy?
Sean Murphy.
What's going on? So, man, Sean Murphy, we're Pistons as well with the split. I appreciate that. I'm sitting there talking to the folks now about the Saddiq and Wiseman move, and I feel like Saddiq hasn't fully worked out here. I feel like he's shown signs at times. Like, look, he can nail the three. Last year, he beat Allen Houston for the 3-point all-time record in the season. But he'll go out there and give you 37 threes, and then he'll go out there and give you 7 in 38 minutes, and he'll disappear for weeks at a time. His defense is inconsistent as well. It just hasn't necessarily worked. And the Pistons have a lot of guards. And moving forward in the future, I don't necessarily see him being a part of that equation once you get Jay and Ivy really running, once you get Cade back and get healthy, and then once you get some moves. But with Wiseman was the second pick overall, and is a guy that a lot of analysts thought, as well as the Warriors thought, that he was going to come in and be a big man. He was going to come in and be that guy. It didn't happen for him there either. But I heard tons of people talk about him. Sometimes you got to go to a new space. But you look at the Warriors, I mean, you're talking about Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, you're talking about Looney, you're talking about Draymond. It's hard to crack that lineup if your mental's not right. And if you're in practice and you practice against them every day, sometimes that mental's not right. So I think new place, change of scenery. I think it could be really good for him here. I think he'll look at the people when he gets here and be like, yo, I'm better than him. Or no, I could be better than him. And it's not a bad thing. It's a competitive thing. So I think, hey, look, man, sometimes the air is a little fresher in different places. And I think the air would be fresher for Wiseman here. And I think the air would be fresher for Saddiq Bey down in ATL.
Yeah.
That's how I look. I'm open. It didn't work, and it's okay.
Yep.
It's okay.
I agree with you on a lot of that because we talk about Saddiq Bey a lot. Jeff, Rod, I know you say you hey, Sean, what up, man? Shout out to Sean Murphy.
Sean's like one of the nicest people in the world, bro. And he knows his shit too, man.
He does. He's one of the most talented people, man, starting to make it. Definitely. And hey, keep out for his content, man, from half court. Sugar Sean, man. Sean Murphy.
Sean Murphy.
That's what I call him. But yeah, with Saddiq Bey, the inconsistencies, we were talking about it. This was a year when Troy Weaver picked up their options that we knew. Killian Hayes, Isaiah Stewart, Saddiq Bey, there's going to be decisions made, whether it's at the trade deadline or at the draft time. Obviously, Saddiq Bey is a guy that they signal. We don't want to be the one to pay whatever he's going to command. So trading him, that's the right pick, or at least that's the right thing, or at least that's what Troy Weaver is showing. I don't really want to pay this guy this money. Right. But the aspect of James Wiseman, I think that it speaks to the fact that maybe fans, maybe some observers, maybe some media, maybe some Kool-Aid.
Yeah, maybe some Kool-Aid.
Maybe we overvalue Saddiq Bey a little bit because Troy Weaver doesn't really lose trades.
This is true. I mean, you look at the whole Jalen Duren thing, even Marvin Bagley, you know what I'm saying? He's trying to get him healthy on a consistent basis, but even that was a good move. Even that was a good trade. You look, he's opened up some cap space for the Detroit Pistons. You look at this offseason, I know everybody's, offseason, but I think that there's some moves to be made. I think this is, but I will say this about the fans, Kool-Aid. They're right. This is a very, very pivotal offseason and draft. The Detroit Pistons.
Yes.
And not Detroit, but Troy Weaver. This is very, very pivotal for Troy Weaver. He's not going to get fired if this is a bad one, and he shouldn't. But this opens up the eye to following him all until next offseason. So, I mean, are you more optimistic? Be honest, people out there listening. We appreciate you tuning in, man. this dude knows his stuff. So I appreciate y'all chiming in.
I
But
appreciate you, brother.
for sure, man, you know my guy. But are you more optimistic right now if they both were right here, no matter the team? Are you optimistic about Saddiq Bey or are you more optimistic about Wiseman? I would have to say I'm more optimistic about James Wiseman and what he can do. I think I've seen more of Saddiq Bey.
Yep.
I've seen more of what he's going to do night in and night out. And now maybe get him a more consistent team, maybe get him better, get younger, better coach with some chemistry on the squad. He'd be better. But I'd rather be optimistic about James Wiseman, which I haven't seen, and neither have the Warriors, to be honest. So I just like the optimism.
That's true too, man. We got to be fair. We got to give him the opportunity, see what he can do when he's getting 15, 20, 30 minutes a night rather than 12 and a half minutes a night with the Warriors. I saw some stretches this year. There was like a 5, 6, 7 game stretch where he was scoring over 10 a game, getting 6, 7, 8 rebounds. And I want to look more into it. I want to look at those games. I want to kind of study the film, see what he's bringing to the table. Because, when you look at the comments, when you're looking at what people are saying, they don't believe that there's like a lot of discernible skill or talent, that
Wiseman.
with Wiseman.
There's a lot of players in the NBA don't have a lot of discernible skill and talent that are balling now. This is a different type of NBA.
It's a different type. And so, yeah, I think that clearly he has the higher ceiling. Saddiq Bey kind of reached this was a year about seeing could he be more. He added to his game, but the limitations with his footwork, with his speed, with his size, kind of being in like this tween type of, is he a 3 or is he a 4? What can he defend effectively? Those things began to really, really, really bog down the actual development of Saddiq Bey to the point that you realize he has talent. He can get paid like this, and he could be very, very valuable for a winning team.
Do you want to pay him that?
Do we want to pay him that?
I think you just hit the nail on the head too, man. Like, one, do you want to pay him that? And then two, it's like when I look at Saddiq Bey, I look at what the Pistons had been in the past. I'm talking about just forever, like the athleticism.
Yeah,
like that's the thing I got excited by it with Duran. That's the thing I got excited by when you see Marvin Bagley catch a oops last season is athleticism. That's when you see Jaden Ivey, like your head turns. You're like, oh, this is what I'm talking about. Like we look like the NBA teams in 2023. We no longer look like the team. So the athleticism piece is a big one for me. I'm not gonna come in here and say I watch the Pistons every night. I'm not gonna come in here and say I know everything about the Pistons because I'd be lying. I don't. But just from what I see, a little bit of knowledge I have,
you're gonna point with it.
I'm more optimistic about James Wiseman, and I wish Saddiq Bey well because he definitely was a cool cat. And he was a cool dude. But
that's a good question. Let's ask the people that, man. Like, who are you more optimistic about? Who has the better future? Who do you believe has not the better future? Who do you believe has the better ceiling, the higher ceiling right now? And if you could honestly take a chance on somebody, would it be Saddiq Bey for another year, or would it be James Wiseman?
Who you should take a chance on always is WoodwardSports.com, including Woodward Sports Pistons, my man Kool-Aid and Jeff Alfredo, who I'm about to bring back. My man, I'm out. Oh, come on, man. Anytime, brother. Anytime here, you know what I'm saying?
Man, look, I got to get Brethren on this channel. So much more. Let's do it.
Just do it. Just talk.
Let's do it.
We can talk about all type of things.
Hey, let's rock.
I did it with Gentry and Jeff.
Let's rock. We're going to do that.
Let me know.
We're going to do that. We're going to do that. But yeah, man, this deal, and I get it. We're going to move on from, the Saddiq Bey of it all, because we know that, everybody was okay with this move. We kind of saw the writing on the wall. Let's move in and focus clearly on James Wiseman, because we don't know if this is a deal that's going to pay other dividends later. Like, is there another trade coming or whatnot? But as it relates to just James Wiseman, I'm seeing some people in the comments who are saying, like, look, if you're saying that Wiseman can't play, then you've never seen him play. I need people who know who James Wiseman is to put it in the comments right now. What is it that James Wiseman brings to the table? Obviously rangy, obviously length, but what do you believe he's going to bring as it relates to something more than the Pistons have right now? Obviously, Jalen Duren is a starter at center. Let me see if I can get Stick in here. Hey, Stick! Try to get Stick in here. See if we can get some more people to give their opinions on the deal. Let me see. People say having Wiseman when we already have Bagley. Yeah, it's redundant. Pistons fan 11. It is redundant, but that's what makes me think that this is about the offseason. If we continue to say that this is the appetizer plate, this is the season that you figure out what these young players are. Then you start to augment them with veteran players that can play. Not veteran players like Rodney McGruder, but veteran players like Alec Burks, like Bojan Bogdanovic. This is signaling to me that Troy Weaver is ready to win. This is signaling to me that Tom Gores is ready to win. 3 years, a lot of high draft picks. You got another high draft pick coming, and you got a lot of cap space. This is signaling that this team is now in a position to say who's going to be in the starting lineup is going to be players that we know we can depend on. Absolutely. We can't have people that are up and down and up and down. We can't have people that are going to start the season slow like we've known, Saddiq Bey to notoriously do. And with what he was going to get paid, this was something that just had to resolve itself. So I don't know if this was just Troy saying, "Hey, let's take a look at Wiseman." But when you do take a look at him, you know, I don't know. This one is one that on initial, like Jeff said, it just kind of makes you scratch your head. I Somebody said maybe Bay is sick of losing. Shout out Philip C in the comments. You can find highlights that make most players look good. Shout out Pistons fan 11. He's better than Bagley and Bay. That's Rob in the comments. Bagley's also hurt. Darko is just terrible. I don't know why Darko always seems to make it into these comments. Shout out Arturo Lopez. Wiseman is athletic, long, tall. Wiseman is super athletic, big, who can block shots and shoot the three. Rim protector, rim runner, athletic and interior defense off the bench. Man, shout out everybody, man. PD Mac, shout out to the regulars, Marvin Tolbert, Craig G. Some of you guys are putting in these comments. And this is what I would say though. If Wiseman is healthy, if he is good to go, who do you believe this deal helps more? On the Pistons. Obviously, for Wiseman, he's going to be able to get opportunity right away when he comes here. But who on this team do you think it helps more? I believe next season, if Wiseman is on the squad, I am kind of getting a little bit intrigued about how that bench looks. When you're talking about rim runners, when you're talking about how long and athletic he is, and the fact that there are so many pick and rolls that Killian Hayes has run with guys like Isaiah Stewart, where he just couldn't throw the lob there because Isaiah Stewart's limitations. So many pick and rolls early in the season before Jalen Duren kind of got his feet underneath him and Marvin Bagley was injured. And the pick and roll game, hey John, and the pick and roll game was absolutely trash. That's what kind of gets me intrigued to see what this team is going to be. So I don't know. I like what I'm seeing out of some of the commenters here. It looks like there are a lot more believers that the vocal minority on Wiseman being trash or being a bum was just that, the vocal minority, man. Is there any other believers in Wiseman, man? Tell us who's going to benefit the most from this trade. Let me see here. See what these comments are saying. Get some more up here. Y'all, Alan Jackson, y'all are disrespectful of James Wiseman. Randy Leahy, I love it. James is going to be a stud. Go watch the highlights. He's real nice. Why are you still believing in this GM? Hey, I know that name, John Steger. And I know he wanted to be able to get on and be able to state his piece on a tweet that we read. You know, we're going to set that up. What I wanted to be able to do in a future one as well, we're going to make one or two of our streamlines available for fans to be able to just come on and vent whatever they got to vent, man, about this trade, or be able to state what they love about the trade, what they think they're going to get from Wiseman. So stay tuned. We got the table talk that will be coming on sometime tonight, and we're going to be able to get that stream link out to people, some of our regulars. So just let us know. You don't got to have the camera on if you don't want to, but we definitely want your opinions. We want to be able to rock with you about this trade. So definitely, man, tap back in tonight when we are on the table talk. But yeah, this trade deadline, I was trying to linger around and wait and see if there was anything from the Pistons that was going to come out, any side deal, or whatever. But do you guys believe that we gave up on Saddiq Bey, or do you believe that this was just a notion that, hey, we're not going to be able to pay him what he's going to want? In years past, we know that we've held on and overvalued our players. Think about when Troy Weaver came in and he first traded Luke Kennard and Bruce Brown. Do you know what social media was like amongst the fans? It was wild. It was absolutely wild, man. Everybody was up in arms over that deal. And nobody was trying to, nobody was really trying to hear it. They were like, yo, these are the guys that are part of our core. We just drafted them, blah, 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 blah. It was a mess. It was an absolute mess, man, at the time being. But we see that Troy Weaver instantly had a plan, had this thing all figured out, had this thing all worked out. Bada bing, bada boom. Obviously, this year has brought some doubts to people. It's definitely brought some doubts. But That's another question I want to ask. Where you guys at with Troy Weaver right now? Where you at with Troy Weaver? Are you? Hey, what's up, brother? What's up, man? Hey, we got John Kloss. I want you guys to put it down in the comments. We'll definitely read some of these off where you're at with Troy Weaver right now and what you hope he does from here on out. But hey, shout out to John Kloss. We got a lot of new faces that we're going to be having on the Woodward Pistons channel. People who are passionate about Pistons, people who are passionate about Woodward sports, and people honestly who are passionate about doing the work. John has asked and honestly done a lot of work behind the scenes to prove that this is something that he loves to do. And he's helped us with social media. He's helped us with some of the content that we post. And he's going out there and finding all of the different aspects of, some aspects like on this day, some engaging questions and whatnot. And I love to be able to make sure that the people who are doing the work behind the scenes are able to get their roses, man. And he loves Pistons. He loves to talk Pistons. So I need to get your initial reaction on this trade, but more specifically, how do you feel about Troy Weaver?
See, when do you think, I saw a tweet, it says, is the seat getting warm for Troy Weaver? When do we start questioning Troy Weaver? At what point, if the Pistons are bad again next year, do we have the right to say maybe he's not the right GM for this team? What do you think, Kool-Aid? Because what is this, year 3, year 4 now? He took a guy in Saddiq Bey who didn't work out. I believe he took him over a guy like Tyrese Maxey, which we're not going to get into the draft mistakes and all that, but I don't know. When is enough losing enough? Because at the end of the day, it's just been losing ever since he's taken over as GM.
Well, when he got here, the promise was a true rebuild and restoration, which this team has not done since the Bad Boy era. They just haven't done it. They haven't torn it down to the studs. It just wasn't their mantra. There was always win now, win now, win now. So when he got here, it wasn't torn down to the studs. If it was, then I would probably be a little bit more concerned and say this was 3 years of all his own doing. But the first year he got here, he still had the albatross of Blake Griffin on the books. And this team was in win now mode still. Dwayne Casey's first year here, this team was in win now mode. What's up, Tom Masway? One of the legends of this industry. So, the rebuild officially began when Cade Cunningham was drafted, which was just last year. And when you look at it from that perspective and you contrast it against the Philadelphia 76ers and their process rebuild, you start to realize though some of these players are not working out the way we wanted. Like when they drafted Markelle Fultz, they were like ecstatic. When we drafted Saddiq Bey and Isaiah Stewart and Killian Hayes, we were ecstatic. Clearly, we see that some of these deals aren't working out the way we had hoped. But Troy Weaver has shown that his feather in his cap has been always how if he doesn't win a trade, if he doesn't win a draft pick, what are you going to do to make up for that? So Killian Hayes, right? They said this might be a project of a pick. They went and they got Saddiq Bey, Isaiah Stewart. But did they wait? No, they went and got Cade Cunningham. Did they wait? No, they went and got Jaden Ivey. They then inked Marvin Bagley to a new deal while they had Kelly O still here on the squad. And Isaiah Stewart. And then what they do? Drafted Jalen Duren. So Troy Weaver, if he was waiting around, if he was like our previous GMs, and I wrote about this on for Sports, about the core 4 and whatnot. If he was like our previous GMs, guess what? Our core 4 from 3 years ago would still be our core 4 of today. Saban Lee would still be here. Isaiah Stewart and Killian Hayes would still be force-fed starters and allowed to do whatever they want. Saddiq Bey would still be here. It would be the same team, whether they're good or not. How many years after the going to work Pistons do we see them continue to run out and just say, yeah, well, because I'm so prideful, I know I made the right pick. Rodney Stuckey is a golden cow. He's not going anywhere. I'll even trade a Chauncey just to prove it. Troy Weaver is saying, you know what? I'm not that prideful, guys. If I have made a mistake on anything, I'm going to go quickly and correct it. And that's why we always say, hey, let's try and wait and see what this actually is. If it's a one-to-one trade, we got to see what Wiseman is with the opportunity first. You know what I mean? But ultimately with Troy, next year is the year with the cap space and with what this trade kind of signals that you want to see this team be a legitimate play-in threat. If Cade Cunningham is healthy, if James Wiseman shows a pulse, You know, if Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren come in next year and they're not starting off like rookies, but they're starting off more like how they are looking today, and Bojan and Alec Burks have the freedom to kind of be the scorers and the starter and the scorer off the bench, then this team should be a decent team. Now, I know that a lot of people are going to say they're bad, and I want you all to put it in the comments. I'm going to go back and read your Troy comments, but let me know, what do you think this team will be? I know that there's a lot to go, but with $60 million in cap space, another high draft pick, and they've kind of cleared up a log jam, and you see that Troy Weaver is thinking and moving and making some moves. Where do you see this team at next year? And y'all put it in the comments too.
Yeah, to the Troy Weaver point, I think one thing we have to remember is he started from nothing. I look at teams like Orlando. When they started the rebuild, they traded a guy like Nikola Vucevic and got Franz Wagner, got Wendell Carter Jr., got another first-round pick. You look at Houston, they were able to trade James Harden and get a bunch of young, first-round picks and some young players. Troy Weaver never had that opportunity. The assets that he had was basically what Luke Kennard was the only asset on this team that got him a first-round pick.
And then second round, Bruce Brown.
Yeah, second round Bruce Brown. There was
that rhymes.
you buy out Blake Griffin. They bought out Reggie Jackson. I believe they bought out Markieff Morris. He basically was starting from nothing. And I think you look at teams like I said, OKC, like Houston, like Orlando that are farther along in the rebuild, arguably, that's because they had that starting point, that jump pad to launch off of. Troy Weaver never had that opportunity. So I do think we give him another year, but to that point, I think they have to be at least a respectable basketball team next year. I think they have to be like a 35-win team. They can't be 20 games under 500. I believe they
top
have
10 team in the East next year, right?
Yes, absolutely. I believe they have the worst point differential.
Yeah, you saying that's the goal?
That should be the standard. I feel like you can't be bad again next year. Like, I believe they have the worst point differential in the league this year. But I don't know. You have to give them grace at the end of the day. Cade Cunningham, this is a star-driven league. They don't have their star at the end of the day.
And he's a star. He's a star. I'm going to keep saying it. I'll stake everything on it, bro. Like, everything. If he don't turn out to be a star, I'm so serious, y'all. I'll take this and toss the credential into the Detroit River. Y'all see this? If Cade Cunningham is not a star, I will stop covering this team, like, straight up. And if he's a star, then I'm telling you guys, it matters when you do lose him. I would love to see how he's going to look with players like, okay, it's just your show. And all these other guys have gotten a little bit better. Bro, you like Dragon Ball Z? No. Oh, that doesn't matter. We're going to preach Dragon Ball Z today. Goodness gracious.
I'm sorry.
Goodness gracious. Oh, any of the Dragon Balls? Oh, my gosh.
I like pro wrestling.
Oh, my
goodness. If there's any similarities with that.
But listen, with Dragon Ball Z, when Saiyans fight, when they lose, they get better. That's just what happens. Goku spent a lot of time in that chamber trying to get better. I remember the Frieza fight, man. And he was sitting in the chamber trying to get ready. His team was getting worked over, but when he got out there, it was just game over, man. It was just, and he continued to take it to new levels after that. That is what Cade Cunningham is, and he is the straw that stirs the drink. I'm going to continue to say that. That is the phrase for Cade. If he's not out there, this whole team is in shambles. And how do we know that? Do you believe that? Because Bojan said that in the Hoops Hype article. He said all of our offense was centered around Cade Cunningham. So when he went down, a lot else went down. And so what happens is, okay, well, we got Killian. He should be able to step in. Well, no, he's up and down, up and down. You need a guy with that I am him.
You need a closer.
You need that I'm him, that I'm clutch, I can close, I can this, I can that. That's what Ivy has up top, but we didn't know, can he play make? Can he ball handle? Can he this? Can he that? So he gets into a little bit of trouble, but when they switched to him, you could kind of see this offense had a gear that was starting to go again. You could see Bojan and these guys were starting to get the space that Cade Cunningham would have helped create if he was here. Because Cade Cunningham can't be defended, man. I was sitting here looking at the games we played against the Cavaliers last year.
Oh, yeah. At the end of last year, he looked – I mean,
come on, man.
The beginning of this year, obviously, he had the last game I believe he played against Boston was one of the worst games he's ever played, but I think we all know that was because of the injury. But, yeah, at the end of the day, it's a star-driven league, and, we're asking rookies like, Jalen Duren and Jaden Ivey to step up, and that's just not fair to ask of them. But I guess I didn't hear your thoughts on the Wiseman move. What do you think Wiseman can realistically be for this team? Do you think he's actually a long-term piece for this team, or do you think he's going to be a guy that they're going to look to flip? Because that's the complaint I've heard a lot is that they already have Jalen Duren, they already have Isaiah Stewart, they already have Marvin Bagley. Like, is this an actual long-term core piece to this team and James Wiseman?
He's young enough to be, and honestly, he will be controllable. He's not one of those guys that will get you in trouble like Andre Drummond, where you have to kind of overpay him because he's here and you don't have a trade partner. With Saddiq Bey, they kind of backed out of that. With Wiseman, it gives you the opportunity to see who he is, see if he can actually be that guy. And if he's not that guy, then yes, you can flip him or walk away with little to no risk involved at all. You want Wiseman to work out because of the ceiling, because of the potential, because of the reasons why he was drafted. And you hope that Troy Weaver had some type of eyes on who James Wiseman was or is as a player. Who Saddiq Bey is and was as a player was not a bad guy. He was actually more or better than we thought. We thought, hey, 3-point shooter to replace Luke Kennard. And I believe that he was unequivocally better than Luke Kennard.
Oh, yeah.
So that proved right. And so what you hope is that in this deal that Troy Weaver sees something more and that proves right as well. So it's just to wait and see. And then also, I talked to Rod Beard of the Detroit News and also, host this podcast with me, What We're Pistons podcast. He stated, as always, with Troy Weaver, you got to wait. You got to wait and see how many people got up in arms over the Jeremy Grant deal. And then just Jeremy Grant for 21st, Milwaukee's like 2025 first round pick. Then all of a sudden the draft hit, and then what happened? So we got to wait. Troy Weaver's season is just beginning, but the draft season, towards the end of the season, that's when things start to get absolutely heated.
Draft talk. Oh, I can't wait for draft talk.
Look, I got these comments here. I got these comments on Troy Weaver. It's a mixed bag. Troy Weaver, thumbs down. Troy Weaver's on strike. That's from Money Train James. This ain't the final roster from Apollo. Let's see what else people saying about Troy. Troy is still that guy. Dwayne Pierce, too, said this summer he just has to continue to make the smart moves. That's spot on, man. Apollo, yeah, I'm still for Troy. We need a new coach for sure. Michael Watts, I trust in Weaver. John Steger, I just wish we got a little more, to be honest. I feel you on that. So we're hoping that Wiseman is that little bit more. Man, shout out Lucas, man. Shout out Lucas. He's been crushing it on socials. But let's see here. Who else? Hey, and then the other comments, Mr. Ray, the Pistons will be bad next year. Because we also asked the people, what do you think?
Well,
people believe Troy has to have a plan, though. People are saying, look, we don't know about this trade yet, but they're saying, listen, he got to have some type of plan. So it's good to see that people still have faith in Troy Weaver.
Yes, and my faith is $57 million, I believe, in cap space this offseason. That is very intriguing to me.
Yep. And honestly, the reason why it's honestly intriguing is because we haven't really seen this ever. The last time we had this type of opportunity, it was the Charlie Villanueva and Ben Gordon show. We know how that ended. So this is a very, very important offseason for the Detroit Pistons. And honestly, what he does this offseason is what makes or breaks this trade for me, honestly. But I mean, I don't know.
What do you think they need the most in the offseason?
Oh, a wing.
More, yeah, obviously, when do you think they need a veteran wing? Do you want to see them go after a restricted free agent, like maybe a Cameron Johnson? Like, I don't know. They have veterans they're keeping around, like Bogey and Alec Burks, which I think is a very smart decision. Do they need more veterans? Or
yes, yeah, they need somebody like Jeremy Grant back here. This is something that we have preached since they traded him. This is something that I preached when people were asking him to trade, asking for the Pistons to trade him. I continue to say, guys, what are you talking about? And it's like you never want to be in a position where you're like, man, are y'all looking at this from a basketball perspective? Because then people start to believe, oh, he think he know more of this. Nah, it's just from an X's and O's standpoint. What the negatives that we see from the Pistons this year, they correspond with the fact that Jeremy Grant's not here. The defense that he brought and the offense, though people thought he was ball stopper, he wasn't. There was no offense here. There were no shooters here last year. He led our team in free throws attempted, free throw rate. He was the best ISO scorer on the team. He was one of our most efficient paint scorers. He was the only one other than Cade Cunningham who could score in all three levels. And the games that we won against big teams, it was because Jeremy Grant was going in there and doing two things: being clutch for us and defending the other team's best player. So when you lose somebody like that, who is and now you see him blossoming, all he needed was talent around him, more talent. You see, oh, nope, he wasn't a problem. He can shoot. That's not a ball stopper. He can handle. That's not a ball stopper. He can play make. That's not a ball stopper. He's dunking on people's heads. And guess what, John? He can still play defense.
Absolutely.
So-
and he hasn't, he hasn't been extended by Portland, which I thought by now he probably would have been, which is, I don't know. And how much do you get?
Oh, he turned that down.
He turned it down.
He turned it down because he's probably going to get 30 million max this offseason.
Wow.
What's good, brother?
What's up?
Oh no, man! But come on, get in the stream, man.
Yeah,
Definitely return the favor.
Want to hop on the mic?
Definitely return the favor. But yeah, yep. Hey, this is it's
rotation. You know what I mean?
The
This is-
rotation.
Yeah, you know what I mean. You gotta have some depth. You gotta have something off the bench.
I like this hoodie, man.
Thank you. Woo.
Gotta get you a Woodward Pistons one though.
We do. we do gotta hook that up. You know, have your agent call my agent. We'll work something out.
Yeah, look, we're
Matter of
going
fact,
through
this
some
is
of
a guy
this.
that's got a this is a guy that needs an agent here. Not me.
You know what? Marvin Tolbert, I think he has the comment of the chats. He said, call up Sheed to coach his Memphis boys. I agree with bro. Coach Sheed, if you're gonna have Wiseman, Duren, Stu, bring in Coach Sheed. Andre
Absolutely.
Drummond's best year, not statistically, but his best year from an aggression standpoint was that 1 year that Rasheed Wallace was assistant coach, and Andre Drummond was dunking everything. And I call it now the Rasheed Wallace school of dunk everything. Jalen Duren, you already see that in his game.
Mhm.
And if we can get some aspect of that around our guys this summer, even if it's just Rasheed Wallace coming out and just, hey, I'm just here to help the guys out in camp or whatever, I would absolutely love that, man. Absolutely.
That's a great
love that.
call.
That's a good comment. That's a real good comment.
That's a great call. I'm gonna hop in the chat here too, so I can see what everybody's saying here. But
Yeah, Mr. Ray said give him 7 years to finally turn around. No. Listen, you
No.
guys, when you hear me talk, it's with the understanding that this team is supposed to be competing for the play-in next year. Troy Weaver stated before the team got injured that this squad was ready to compete this year. That's where a lot of the hope came from and the enthusiasm to start the season. Then they got injured. We saw how woeful the offense was last year when Bagley wasn't there.
Mhm.
We kept saying this team cannot run the pick and roll. When they finally traded for Marvin Bagley, guess what the team did? They went on a little bit of a run.
yeah,
They were 10-14 post All-Star break, largely due to Jeremy Grant, Cade Cunningham, and Marvin Bagley. That's what made this thing work, and a whole bunch of threes from Saddiq Bey once he got going. I cannot leave that out.
yeah.
I can't leave that out. Not at all. But I Apollo said, shave your head if Cade is an MVP next season. I got you. I got you.
Yeah, playing with house money there.
What you got for us though, Chris? What you got for
Man,
us, brother?
I know we talked about this on your live stream. So the Wiseman for Saddiq Bey trade. I'm not totally against it. I'm not all out on it. My thing has always been with it. I think Troy Weaver had the right principle intact of if you're trading a young player that's not working out for you and needs a new situation, then you also want to look for that in return or draft capital that can lead to another young player. And we saw that the market when it came to Saddiq picks probably wasn't going to be what you wanted. It probably wasn't going to be a good first round pick. It was probably going to be a combination of second round picks. So I'm okay with then canvassing the league and then acquiring a former number 2 overall pick in Wiseman. But the reason why I don't like Wiseman specifically is because I feel like, well, yes, he has a higher ceiling than Saddiq Bey, and that is a good move to make.
Yeah.
I don't think he can reach that ceiling with a team loaded at front court like the Pistons are with Duren, with Bagley, because Duren is the center of the future. I don't expect
Center of
Wiseman.
the now.
Center of the now and the future.
Yeah.
And I don't expect Wiseman to change that. So with that being said, you're acquiring him to be a backup center, but isn't that what Bagley is best at? Is a 4/5 off the bench that can really kind of be a scoring punch. And then again, Isaiah Stewart, and this is why I said he's the player to watch for me down the stretch for the Pistons, is If he can't shoot the three, his role is ultimately a backup center as well. And then all of a sudden that becomes a logjam. And so while, yes, Wiseman has a higher ceiling than Saddiq Bey, I don't necessarily know if Detroit is the right place for him to reach that ceiling. But if he could showcase something, maybe this is a move like the Jeremy Grant move. Remember, Pistons fans, everybody was all up in arms when Jeremy Grant was traded. And Troy said, hold on, just wait. Just give me like 24 hours. Just relax. Woosah. Just calm down. And then he ends up flipping that into Jalen Duren, which now, months later, everybody loves.
Not just Jalen Duren, but Jalen Duren and Alec Burks and other players that were paying some aspect of dividend for this squad.
Absolutely.
It's the reality. And honestly, before they got upset about the Jeremy Grant trade, they got upset that Jeremy Grant wasn't traded at the trade deadline.
Exactly.
It's just sometimes we got to let them cook. If there's some recipe here where trade, or this happened, and we wind up with, say, Scoot and like, yo, he just got another lottery pick. I told you guys this before last draft. I'm not going to be surprised if and when Troy Weaver gets another first-round draft pick. Then voila, Jalen Duren falls into our lap. This is the way he operates. So it's like, look, we can the one-to-one from just a basketball standpoint. It's like, oh my goodness, if I had the hair, y'all, it'd be kind of gone. But just a little bit. I'll have like one pat trail. I'm like, what in the world? But
like a mad scientist.
From the Troy Weaver verse of it all, from the Grim Reaper,
he's shown you this before.
Reaper, he's shown this before, and he's always sitting there like, I dare one of you guys to act like I messed up. Yeah. And if he has, he's always quickly come right behind and augmented this
and
team.
If he has, let's just say that Wiseman, this thing doesn't work. At the end of the day, Saddiq Bey, this is not a trade that is going to change the course of your franchise. It can if it works out right, but if it works out wrong, it's not going to change the course of this Pistons franchise at all in the slightest, because at the end of the day, you have your core in Cade, Ivy, and Duren. Now it's time to supplement things around that can work. And that's what Troy Weaver is doing. That's what he's looking for. He's doing the risk reward game. And if he loses, this isn't like botching trading a superstar. When you trade a superstar, you have to nail that trade, because that is the key. That is the kickstart to your rebuild. This is not a trade like that. This is a trade on the margins that, honestly, if we're being real, maybe Pistons fans won't even remember this trade in 2-3 years. Maybe it'll end up just being a wash. Okay, Saddiq was decent. Wiseman was decent. This means nothing, really, in the grand scheme of things. So Pistons fans that are upset about this, because I've seen there is some out there, I would just encourage patience, because Troy Weaver's process has always been patient. And there can be a time to be critical, but it's not necessarily right now. You have to let this play out, and you have to see what Wiseman turns into.
Yeah.
And go from there. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, like I said, this isn't mortgaging the Pistons' future.
No.
There's nothing to this.
Mortgaging the Pistons' future would have been doing what previous Pistons GMs would have done, and that's give Saddiq Bey the bag.
Yeah.
That's what previous ones would have done, and then we'd be sitting here like, dang. We would be sitting here like, man, I would have at least liked to have kicked the can on on James Wiseman. Yeah. I remember when we signed Andre Drummond, we signed other players, and we just continued to like take flyers on the wrong players. I was like, what's the problem with taking a flyer on Markelle Fultz? He was a broken player who we were all like, hey, let's just try and see. He was a guy who looked like he had less of a ceiling than James Wiseman. So if Troy sees something, man, you want to be able to give this thing a go,
And for the record, I don't necessarily, again, think Wiseman is going to be a great fit in Detroit. I don't, for the record. So I don't think, but I don't think this is a terrible trade. And I think he had the right philosophy when it came to the trade. Let me try to find another young guy with upside that maybe didn't work in a certain situation in Golden State. Now, I find it hard to believe that if you can't make it work in Golden State, that you can make it work somewhere else. That's one of the best systems the NBA basketball landscape has seen in the last 20 years. But, sometimes that happens. I mean, there was a great system in Detroit in 2004, and Darko still couldn't find his way. So sometimes sometimes things just don't work.
Another Darko reference, man.
Yeah.
Darko finds Darko finds a place or a home on this pod, on this channel, like every single stream that we do, man. I absolutely love it.
Marvin Tolbert believes this will be a value trade, and I hope so. I hope so, and I definitely can see that scenario. I just don't see Wiseman long term being a beneficial piece of Pistons, unless, like you proposed on the live stream we did on the heavyweights, of maybe this opens up the door to making Bagley expendable. So maybe by trading Saddiq and getting Wiseman, you're now opening the door to trade Bagley, which leads to this. And that's why you have to have patience with these moves, because these moves are not made, like you said, one-on-one.
Nope.
These moves are made in a grand scheme, in a master plan. And if there's anything that Troy Weaver has shown, if there's one single thing he's shown in this whole entire tenure, it's I have a plan.
Yep. Because
nothing is done hastily. Nothing is done in just complete what's the word I'm looking for? But
haste.
Yeah, just reactionary. Nothing is reactionary. Everything is calculated with Troy Weaver. And so we'll see if the calculation's right.
Yep. And it's interesting here, man. Like it's gonna be interesting off season. Yeah. It's gonna be a very, very interesting off season.
I appreciate you letting me hop on. I do gotta slide back to the heavyweights.
I got one question.
One question.
I can
Let's do it.
Still one from you. Like, when did the Pistons and the Knicks start their trade talks that ultimately culminated with them getting Jalen Duren?
I see your time. You probably know the answer much better than I do. To me, it's all a blur. I remember the Grant trade was 2 nights before the draft, right?
Yeah. And
then the Knicks trade was obviously the day of the draft. So that's a 48-hour window. But I'm sure that when he was discussing the Grant trade, he was then looking at the asset he's getting in return. Okay, if this is the route we're going, then let me see what we.
Do you remember any other time during that season that they were talking before that off-season moment?
Oh, they were talking at the deadline. Weren't the Blazers right? They were right. Yeah.
Oh, the Pistons, the Blazers, the Knicks. Everyone was talking at the trade deadline when everyone said Troy fumbled the bag. He ain't trade nobody. What if they're laying the groundwork for something crazy this off season?
Lakers too. Okay, let's look at the Lakers and Bojan thing. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. The Bucks, the Knicks, and the Lakers.
And look at what happens to the Lakers this offseason. They now get an additional first to trade. Not saying that Detroit is now getting 2 firsts for Bojan, but okay, we like this trade.
When I know what it's going to be, I only need 1 draft pick.
Yeah, let's see, because maybe we can make this a 3-team trade in the summer where we shout out these 2 firsts, and then we get Bojan and somebody else, and this is a rotating part. And again, there's a plan. Yes, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. Is that a lot of trade deadline talk doesn't necessarily mean that a trade is happening right now. It means that the future, it's laying the groundwork, like you said, for a future deal. Yep. And I definitely think the Pistons are doing that, because I think the Pistons made it very clear, just like they did with Jeremy Grant, what the price was, and they didn't budge. They didn't get that at the deadline. Let's revisit in the offseason. And now when LA calls or Portland calls or whoever calls, you're now looking at, okay, this is where we're starting at. We don't have to have the preliminary discussions of, okay, you know the framework. You know what I'm looking for. I know what you're looking for. Does this now work better for us? Yes or no? And if it does, then you do the trade. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. And so, yeah, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, hey, look, y'all, this was fun. This was awesome. Definitely hit the like button, subscribe, support. We're going to be doing a lot more lives actually during the week. I'm going to be getting in here and doing stuff during the 10 o'clock hour as well as the 4 o'clock hour, so that you can see a lot more of these faces that contribute. They do a lot around here at Woodward Sports. So it's dope to be able to get their voices, their opinions,
their
expertise. Oh, definitely, man. Shout out John. Shout out everybody. John. Braylon Edwards. Shout out Chris. Shout out Jeff Iafrady, Mr. Everything. Rob Beard was going to try and jump on today, but he's stupendously busy. He's not just a beat writer. Yeah. He's now the assistant sports editor for the Detroit News. So we appreciate his time anytime he gives it to us.
You seen Mads almost made him lose his hair yesterday?
Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man.
Mads said Kevin Durant to the Lakers, and I don't know Rod Beard as well as you do, but that looked like a man that was stressed out.
Yeah. Yeah. Sheesh, brother.
Shout out to Rod Beard, man. Good dude. Good dude.
Shout out to Rob Beard. But hey, look, this was fun, man. This was fun.
Absolutely.
I liked it. For Woodward Sports and Woodward Pistons, my name is Brandon Dent, aka Detroit Kool-Aid, and we will see you guys next time. Tap in tonight, man. Table Talk should be wild. Should be wild.
I'm looking forward to it. Peace.